Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's video we take a look at the story and characters of Resident Evil 3 as we adventure with Jill Valentine through the zombie-infested streets of Raccoon City and beyond. In this video, not only will we look at all of the major story beats from the game's campaign, we will also check out the various characters and monsters who appear along the way. So whether you've played Resident Evil 3 and are looking for a little more background information, or are new to the game and wish to experience Jill's nightmare in broad strokes, you've come to the right place. With that said, sit back, relax, and let's dive into another horror game explained. Deep within an underground research laboratory beneath the zombie-infested streets of Raccoon City, shady pharmaceutical company Umbrella puts the finishing touches to a highly dangerous biologically engineered weapon known as Project Nemesis. The Umbrella Corporation are a global entity who present themselves as a harmless medical research organisation to the general public, but secretly created a deadly organism known as the T-virus, a mutagenic plague which they have spread to the inhabitants of Raccoon City, transforming those infected into the bloodthirsty undead. The Nemesis is the latest in a series of tyrant experiments engineered by Umbrella, this time using parasites rather than a simple virus, which means this particular tyrant can transform and adapt depending on its environment. It was created to sell to the army as a powerful bioweapon, and on this night of September 28th has been unleashed within Raccoon City to hunt down Jill Valentine, one of the last remaining members of STARS, or Special Tactics and Rescue Service. A few months previously, Jill and her STARS team, led by the traitorous Captain Albert Wesker, investigated an old mansion in the Arklay Mountains just outside of Raccoon City. There, they had been exposed to the T-virus, discovering many life forms mutated by the formula and also uncovering the sinister truth behind the Umbrella Corporation. Most of the STARS team didn't make it home alive, and those who did, Jill included, were now a target for Umbrella, who obviously want to cover up their dark secrets. Jill wakes from a nightmare in her apartment, still worried she may have become contaminated by the T-virus while on her mission a few months earlier. Since uncovering Umbrella's hidden lab in the mountains, Jill has been suspended from Raccoon City Police Department, where her team operated from, and turned into a private detective, trying to shut down Umbrella once and for all and expose the hell they have brought on this city and its inhabitants. Jill receives a call from her old STARS helicopter pilot, Brad VICKERS.
Hello?
Jill, are you okay?
Brad, is that you?
Listen, you gotta get out of there.
What are you talking about?
I don't have time to explain. You gotta get out of there right now.
All right, let me grab my...
Umbrella are field testing the Nemesis for the first time tonight, and what better target than the girl who knew too much, Jill Valentine. Jill engages in a desperate struggle against the Nemesis as it tears through her apartment block. Eventually she escapes into the zombie-ravaged streets of the city and reunites with Brad.
What was that thing?
Damned if I know. But right now it's got a hard-on for the only two STARS left in town, you and me.
Brad and Jill flee to a nearby bar as they try their best to escape the zombie horde. Unfortunately for Brad, it's too late as he is bitten and therefore infected in the process, instructing Jill to leave him for dead and save herself. Honouring her teammates' last wishes, Jill pushes forward and heads for the rooftop of a parking garage to board a rescue chopper. Unfortunately, the Nemesis intervenes and causes the chopper to crash. With very few options remaining, Jill climbs into a car and drives it straight into the hideous monstrosity, slamming it into the concrete below as she careens off the roof of a parking lot. But somehow the Nemesis survives, picking itself up from the rubble. Jill's luck seems to have run out, until out of nowhere appears a white knight with a rocket launcher by the name of Carlos Oliveira.
Hey, easy lady, I got you.
Who are you? What are you doing?
Name's Carlos, and I'm saving you.
Carlos is a member of Umbrella himself, although blissfully unaware of their sinister activities with the T-virus. He was a mercenary hired by the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, a team specializing in rescue operations during outbreaks such as the one currently affecting Raccoon City. Despite Umbrella being a devilish company, they still want to look like a good guy corporation to the public. Carlos leads Jill into the abandoned subway station where his team are currently posted. There, team leader MIKHAIL VIKTOR asks Jill for her help.
We can evacuate some survivors, but we need help.
All right. I'm in.
The UBCS are attempting to evacuate citizens via the subway train, however the power is currently down, and so begrudgingly Jill decides to team up with this branch of Umbrella in order to escape the city and save some lives. She heads up topside and steps back out onto the dangerous city streets. After exploring Raccoon City for a while, taking down zombies and unlocking some additional firepower, Jill eventually finds her way into an old repair shop where she encounters 2 more members of the countermeasure team.
Come on, don't look at me like that, alright? I'm not infected.
No,
No, wait, please!
He was infected.
He might have been infected.
He would have turned. There's your sense of self-preservation.
NIKOLAI ZINOVIEV is a ruthless mercenary working for the UBS who seems like he will do anything to keep himself alive. He has no compassion for others and puts his mission objective and paycheck above everything else. After her encounter with this unpleasant merc, Jill finally reaches the power plant which provides the subway system with its electricity. However, currently it isn't because it has been overrun by biologically mutated arachnids who have built a hive of rotten flesh around its pylons. Jill heads into the nest to turn back on the generators and is attacked by its inhabitants in the process. Eventually she manages to get the job done and escape the hive, frying it as power returns to the pylons the giant cocoon has been woven onto. With power back up, Jill heads to the subway control to get the train moving.
Next up is the traffic control system. It should be in the subway company's offices.
Right. I think I know the building.
Along the way, she is ambushed by the Nemesis once more, as it returns with a vengeance. Jill ducks and dives as she battles this hideous mutant through the streets of Raccoon City every step of the way to the traffic control center. She finally reaches her destination and plots out a new route for the train to take. Finally, it's time to head back to Carlos and his team and get out of town with the survivors. Of course, the Nemesis doesn't make things easy on the return trip, transforming zombies into parasite-infected variants which can literally suck a person's face off. Upon reuniting with Carlos and the UBSC, Jill and NIKOLAI have another heated argument, which is interrupted by the appearance of the Nemesis. Jill sacrifices her own safety for that of the survivors as she attempts to lead the bioweapon away from the train.
It's me he's after.
Hey.
I'll buy you some time.
Hey, wait, Jill! No!
After some fancy footwork, Jill escapes through a ventilation shaft and heads into the depths of a Raccoon City sewer system. Not only are these dark and gloomy tunnels full of rancid trash, they are also the habitat for another secret Umbrella project, the Hunter Gamma. These amphibious mutations seem to be based on frogs who were infected with a T-virus and then conditioned to be overtly aggressive and agile. They were released into the sewer system by a disgruntled scientist after Umbrella initially rejected them due to a weak point in their design. Their mouths, when exposed, are highly fragile. Jill battles these froggy abominations through the filthy tunnels of this sewer until she eventually makes it topside and heads back to the train to link up with the other survivors.
Carlos, can you hear me now?
Jill! Oh, thank God. Everything okay?
Yeah, I'm alive. I lost him.
Great. The subway's ready to go. We'll leave as soon as you make it back.
But once again, that relentless predator Nemesis cuts her off at the pass and chases Jill into a building where she becomes trapped. Her only option is to fight through the zombies within, as Nemesis, hot on her trail, begins burning the structure to the ground with his fancy new flamethrower. Eventually Jill reaches the roof and, with no place else to run, finally faces off against her pursuer.
All right, let's do this.
After a heated battle, she brings down the Nemesis and makes a risky escape from the smouldering rooftop, sliding down the side of the building and narrowly avoiding becoming a Jill sandwich. A little later she runs into her old friend and owner of a local gun store, Joseph Kendo, who supplies her with a key, unlocking a gate which leads back to the subway station. Unfortunately, the Nemesis returns and begins destroying the city around Jill, tearing it apart as it attempts to blow her up with its rocket launcher. Carlos meets her outside the station and the two manage to escape inside.
Come on, forget about him!
Carlos informs Jill that while she takes the train with the rest of the survivors, he and his platoon mates must stay in town to carry out further orders from Umbrella. So the two part ways, Jill taking the train and Carlos heading to the Raccoon City Police Department. While on the train, Jill notices that squad leader MIKHAIL seems a little suspicious of his Sergeant NIKOLAI.
Funny, the gate was locked. Don't you think?
What was that?
The Nemesis storms the train and wipes out the civilians, and Jill and MIKHAIL are left to the beast's mercy after the traitorous NIKOLAI locks them inside its carriage. To save Jill's life, MIKHAIL selflessly detonates an explosive, blowing both himself and the Nemesis up in the process. The train derails and Jill is knocked unconscious. We pick up the story a few hours later in the presence of Carlos and his squad mate Tyrell as they head inside the Raccoon City Police Department to try and locate the whereabouts of Dr. Nathaniel Bard, a medical worker with insider info on Umbrella who the company wished to be taken into custody. His last known transmission came from the RCPD's STARS office. Carlos makes his way through the building, encountering a terrifying new enemy type known as the Licker in the process. These are zombified humans infected with a second strain of the T virus, which transforms them further into these agile lizard-like predators. Eventually, Carlos battles to the upper levels of the building where he logs into the computer within the STARS office and communicates directly with Dr. Bard.
Umbrella's gone crazy. They're killing all the researchers. I am the only one who knows how to make the vaccine to stop the zombies.
Bard has developed a vaccine for the T-virus outbreak, a formula which can stop the spread of infection and therefore, if mass-produced, save lives. He is currently trapped within the hospital across town. Shortly after this communication, Carlos receives a distress call from Jill, who seems to be in danger.
Jill, what happened? Jill, come in! T, I gotta go.
Do what you gotta. I'll take care of Bard.
Rewinding slightly, we find ourselves back in the depths of the subway station, where Jill awakens beside the smouldering wreckage of the train crash. She makes her way to the clock tower plaza above, where she radios into Carlos. However, her call is rudely interrupted.
NIKOLAI left us to die.
Wait, what?
It's back!
Jill, what happened? Jill, come in!
This is the first major evolution of the Nemesis. After falling into the river, the parasite within its body mutated and transformed the beast into an even stronger and more able weapon. Jill stands her ground and fights.
Come on! I'm gonna
Eventually, she manages to take down Nemesis 2.0, but as she turns to walk away, the creature fires one of its deadly spores into Jill's shoulder and infects her with the T virus. NIKOLAI watches ominously from the sidelines. Carlos comes to Jill's rescue as he responds to a distress call. He believes the only way to save Jill's life is to take her to the local hospital and obtain a sample of the vaccine from Dr. Bard.
Fight it, Jill. I'm gonna get you the vaccine.
With Jill now resting in the hospital bed, Carlos sets out to find a way inside Dr. Bard's sealed quarters. While searching for a tape recorder which contains the voice activation needed to activate this room, Carlos comes across a room full of torn up bodies and slash marks on the wall. But what did this? It isn't long before the culprit introduces itself. Another Resident Evil fan favourite, the Hunter. Carlos slays these hunters and gains access to Dr. Bard's office. However, he discovers Bard has been assassinated by an unknown assailant. Carlos logs into the doctor's personal email and learns the horrifying truth about Umbrella. He discovers that Dr. Bard wanted to cure the T-virus outbreak, but Umbrella didn't want him to. Moreover, they wanted to keep the vaccine secret in order to control the world with their deadly biohazard weaponry.
They want to destroy it. They don't want the world to know what they've done. So they're trying to erase all evidence that the virus ever existed.
My God, Jill knew all along. And she trusted me anyway.
A disillusioned Carlos, now hell-bent on helping Jill take down Umbrella once and for all, returns to her and injects her with the vaccine, which saves her life. He reunites with Tyrell, who has been injured during his journey across town. The two soon witness an emergency broadcast, which informs the government has plans to nuke the city as a last resort to contain the outbreak, wiping out all evidence of Umbrella's misconduct in the process.
The contagion spreading throughout the city has been designated uncontainable.
Carlos heads out to try and find a formula for the vaccine, which is hidden within an Umbrella storage facility beneath the hospital.
What do you think you're gonna do? Whole city's about to be microwaved.
Come on, man. Call the government. Tell them we found a cure. You stall for time.
When Jill awakens, he is long gone. Tyrell catches her up to speed and she sets off to find her new partner.
Where is he?
He went underground. Bard stockpiled the vaccine, enough to give this city some hope.
He thinks he can do this by himself. I'm going after him.
Leave this mess to him. He's a professional.
So am I.
As Jill heads down into the secret lab, she wonders how a structure existed here without the hospital staff ever knowing about it. This facility was used to experiment with those infected by the virus, and they were taken from their hospital beds and brought down here for research by Umbrella scientists. Jill soon runs into a new form of super-powered zombie known as the Palehead. These pale and frail looking zombies have high regrowth abilities and can kill in seconds if they latch onto their prey. While slow and sluggish at a first glance, they are anything but docile. After getting the power back on to the elevator, Jill prepares to head inside the lab for the final showdown. Tyrell catches her up with some new information.
I got through. They're willing to negotiate. They'll call off the strike if we can deliver the vaccine to them before they launch.
How long do we have?
Hours, maybe.
Shortly after this, the Nemesis returns once again. Still tracking Jill, it has found a way inside this secret base and takes out Tyrell. Jill escapes into the lab, codenamed The Nest, where she finds all manner of horrors. These are the experiments conducted in secret by Umbrella, just like she previously witnessed while investigating the mansion a few months earlier. To create the vaccine formula, Jill needs to locate two separate compounds, an antigen and adjuvant. So she sets off into the lab, fighting waves of mutated super zombies, hunters, and everything in between on a mission to save the city. Upon mixing the two compounds together and balancing them out, the vaccine is born, but as expected, things are never that simple, and Nemesis returns to stop Miss Valentine once and for all. A desperate struggle and game of cat and mouse ensues as Jill heads through the lab, her stalker in hot pursuit. She manages to blow it up with a well-placed shot to this flammable container, and soon finds herself in a large arena full of vats of acid. As the Nemesis breaks into this room, Jill loses her footing and ends up hanging on for dear life. Nikolai shows back up and nabs the vaccine from under her nose. He goes on to explain he has been documenting the Nemesis as it fights her, gathering important field info for Umbrella about the creature's abilities and ways it can mutate. Nikolai promises Jill the vaccine in return for one last battle against this bioweapon.
You go down there, battle the Nemesis, and I'll recall it all and sell the combat dog. Put on a good show and maybe I don't need the vaccine. Agreed?
With no other option, Jill falls down and faces off against the Nemesis once more. However, she is joined this time by Carlos.
Jill, is that you?
Carlos?
You're okay. Let me spot for you.
Good idea.
I got this. Not what I intended to hit. Well, I'll take it.
The two fight against the beast until it eventually falls. Jill escapes via a crane, while Carlos drowns Nemesis in the acid pit. Finally, it seems to be dead, dissolving and sinking to its demise. As Jill moves to rendezvous with Carlos, she runs into Nikolai, who decides he doesn't want to give her the vaccine after all. What a surprise. And before Jill can stop him, Nemesis shows back up in a super evolved form like never before. Always looking out for number one, Nikolai turns tail and flees, leaving Jill in the lurch.
You know how it is. City's about to explode, and you can't put a price on life. Good luck!
Nikolai!
Jill!
Go after Nikolai! He's got the vaccine!
Carlos sets out after Nikolai, and Jill decides no matter what, she has to find a way to end Nemesis once and for all. Luckily, she gains access to an Umbrella-developed anti-biohazard superweapon known as the Railgun. While normal bullets don't do too much against this highly evolved parasite, the railgun soon makes short work of it, and Jill makes doubly sure Nemesis isn't getting up this time. She heads to the surface where Carlos has fallen to Nikolai. Nikolai destroys the vaccine in front of Jill as he is being paid by Umbrella to keep their best's interest alive. A vaccine wouldn't be part of that picture. As he is about to shoot Jill, Carlos revives and tackles Nikolai, a scuffle which leaves Jill with a hard choice.
Shoot him!
I can't! I'll hit you!
Do it! Take it!
Carlos!
I told you I couldn't leave you in a Carlos's world. That would just be too cruel.
Why'd you do it?
I'll tell you, if you get me out of here. If I die, you'll never find out the truth.
I don't mind a little detective work.
With Nikolai down and out for the count, the two quickly board the chopper and escape the city as a nuclear missile blows it sky high. While Jill doesn't have the antidote, she does have vital information on Umbrella and vows to uncover the truth, expose them to the world, and shut them down for good. With that, we conclude this look at the story of Resident Evil 3. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, remember to give it a like, comment, and of course subscribe for more horror related content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.